Hi, I'm Christopher Stewart. Now, I want to talk about something extremely important. Um, in a lot of cases, what I've heard throughout my life, now this may finally be different, but what I've heard a lot throughout my life from agents is things like how they trash extra roles, how they trash small parts. Okay? Extra roles, small parts, anything that you do in theater, anything at all that you do in theater is extremely important, okay? Because it builds you as an actor. It creates your abilities as an actor. It gives you versatility as an actor. You can learn more from doing the smallest part of a production sometimes than you can learn from being the lead, because you're actually learning. You're not focus so much on your character and on the storyboard and everything else and listening to this and that and so on and so forth, because you're there listening to everybody else, because you're waiting for your chance. So while you're waiting around, you're listening to everybody else. This gives you an opportunity to take in information. Now, one of the important things about things like extra roles, if you're doing a number of extra roles in which you have to either do one line or where you're suddenly deciding that this is your character or that and so on and so forth, it's preparing you to create characters. And the more characters you can create, the more versatile you are as a person. When you're doing multiple extra roles in a single production, you have to learn how to be different people within that production. This is one of the reasons why I'm so good at becoming different people, because I had so much experience in doing it. And I got that experience not from doing major roles, but from doing minor roles and extra roles. Okay? Also, you make money doing it. You know, I mean, I think the biggest joke we ever had, I was talking with Tom Cruise one time, and he looked at me and asked a question about, you know, how much I was making from this film or that film, and I had told him I was making this from that and this from that and so on and so forth. And he was sitting there adding it up, and he laughed and said, "You're making more than I did. And I just did this major role in this part." And, you know, because you get all those little jobs and they add up. So, I mean, that's one of those things. It shows you more as a versatile actor because you are willing to do anything, because you're capable of doing anything. You don't want to get stuck with that. You don't want to be, I mean, I had a lot of problems now and again. Sometimes I'd get a little bit annoyed, and my friends would sit there and go, "That's okay, Chris. Sometimes you don't get annoyed enough. The biggest problem is you're just doing too many extra roles, and you need to do a bigger role. You really do." You know, that's where a lot of cases would come in. But you have to understand just how much you can learn from these things. You know, I mean, here's the main difference in acting. Okay, you have your people that clown around at work. Those are the people that sit there and go, "Oh yeah, so what? Small contract, so let's just get through it. Oh gee, oh well, I got to be an extra here. Okay, I'll do it." Then you have the people who are the A students, who are sitting there saying, "You're paying me X amount of dollars. That means I have to give you the best performance of my life. Even if that amount is the smallest amount you've ever received for doing production, you still have to take that attitude. You still have to say, okay, I'm here to work. Okay, I'm here to do everything I can do." And that's the difference between really exploring what you can do with minor roles and extra roles, and with learning from them, and with just, okay, I'll be an extra for here. Okay, I mean, you know, everybody needs people in theater and in film. Okay, I mean, what good is something like Dune if you don't have Sardaukar terror troops running around? Okay, you know, it's useless. You have to have those extras there. Now, some people would look at me, agents would look at me and go, "So what, you were running around in the background?" Well, I was also the person that kills Duncan and the person that Duncan kills, which kind of makes me a major character because it's part of the storyboard. Okay? Now, you know, you have to realize that all of these extra parts, some of them actually are in the storyboard. You have to have a star stormtrooper that's doing lines, that's being that particular stormtrooper. You have to have main people for the bad guys to have so that they die, you know, and the hero looks good and that kind of thing. And because of that, you have to have smaller parts. You have to have supporting roles, and you have to have extras. Okay? I never really like the term extra because it signifies that all you are is just standing in the background. And that's not true, because that isn't what extras are. Extras are supporting cast members. You know? I mean, you don't get this outside of the US. Because outside of the US, in France, in Italy, in England, they really appreciate everybody that does the production. Okay? If you're in a small production with Hammer Studios and you're one of the people in the city and Christopher Lee's coming around the corner and then you have to start a fight with him in an alley to be a couple of thugs taking on Dracula, and he kills you, of course, because he's Dracula, and you run away screaming, you're extremely important there as the thugs, because without you there, you've got Christopher Lee standing there on a bare stage. You know, he's got to be able to interact with somebody. And in England, they really appreciate that. And, you know, and in foreign countries, they also look at it from a perspective of, you were the great star of this film. Oh, good, you're going to be a supporting character here. Oh, great, you're going to be an extra there. That shows you're not stuck up. Okay? The biggest problem with Americans working overseas is most directors and producers from foreign countries think that all Americans are these stuck-up, multi-millionaire Californian playboys that will never get their hands dirty and never do any work in their life and do only the major roles, and would frown on doing a minor position. And that's why in a lot of cases American actors have a hard time overseas, because the British actors, the French actors, the Italian actors think you're all just so above everything that they really don't like you. And when you prove to them, when you prove to the world that you can do any role possible, it shows you as more versatile as an actor. It shows you're willing to get your hands dirty. Okay? Agents constantly sit there and go, what can I do with that? How can I promote that? Da-da-da-da-dee. Now, that's not your concern. As an agent, the only thing you care about is the fact that I got paid X amount of dollars to do that contract and you got your percentage. Find another contract. That's all that matters to the agent. That's all that should ever matter to the agent. Okay? Because while you're doing this position, while you're doing something like, for example, I did some of the security guard work in Escape from New York. Okay? Now you might go, oh, big deal, you're one of the guys running around in the background. I met John Carpenter. And I got to be very good friends with John Carpenter because I was one of those guys running around. Okay? You have to use everything to your advantage. And part of that is learning who people are, talking with people, getting to know other people. And it doesn't matter if you're a small part in this production, because then maybe they'll call you back. Okay? When I did that small piece with John Carpenter, it started off as a very small piece because I was a teenager and he wasn't entirely sure what to do. And then he started watching me and he said, I really like this kid. And so he started actually improving what I was going to be doing within the production. And he was calling me forward in all of the extra roles. And then after the production, he called me back and said, I don't necessarily have something for a teenager, but I have something that I would like you to try because I think you'd have a lot of fun doing it. And I said, what's that? And he said, we're doing the production of The Thing, and I need somebody to play with the dog. And I figured a boy playing with a dog is just everything. And just, you love horror so much that you came to my mind. And you're still on my mind from my last production. So I ended up being the husky handler in The Thing. This is how small roles and small parts, extra roles, can be important to a career. Okay? You have to realize what you can do with it. You have to learn from every experience. You have to gain contacts. So in doing so, take smaller roles, take large roles, take everything in between. Because the more and more you work, the more experience you get. And it doesn't matter what that experience is. If someone looks at you and says, I need a gaffer, can you learn how to gaff for 5 minutes? Then you've acquired a skill. And you've helped in the production. And the whole nonsense of what the agents are looking for, who cares? You're gaining experience. And that experience builds you as a person. It builds you as an actor. Okay? I can't stress that enough. How many times do people go into extra roles and learn from it? And how many times could they? How many times do people go into extra roles and fail to make contacts in theater that they could have made? Simply because they weren't thinking about it. Simply because they weren't outgoing enough. Simply because they're not strong enough as a person. Okay? When I originally took on the role for The Running Man, my role for the Running Man, what my contract was be an extra in The Running Man. And then on set, Carrie Fisher walked up to me and said, Chris, come on, they're auditioning for something on set. It's an on-the-spot kind of thing. And I went and I talked with her and I did the audition. I talked with the director, and all of a sudden I was no longer just an extra. I had a major supporting role within the film. And then they kind of adjusted my contract after that. But I could not have gotten that if I wasn't the kind of person I am, if I didn't go out and do things with that extra role, if I didn't go out and get contacts in theater. And that's what a lot of it is. Okay? People sit there and they say things like, oh, wow, B-rated films, so on and so forth. All right, let me challenge you as a agent. What films do you watch? And they'll go, whoa, wait a minute, what do you mean? What films do you watch? Do you just watch Star Trek, but no other science fiction show? Do you only watch comedies and never a horror film? Any agent who would sit there and say something like B films, A-list, any of this jargon, any single agent on earth that would ever use jargon by the paparazzi is a bad agent whose only concern is with pigeonholing, stereotyping, and calling names to other people. They're rich, they're from Beverly Hills, they're looking down on the entire world, including you, including every actor and actress they work with. Every agent that does that, every agent that tries to say, I am designing who will be a star and who will not, every agent that does that is a horrible agent. And every single agent that is like that is all doing the exact same thing. It's terrible. It needs to be thrown out of the entire industry because it's not in the industry. It has nothing to do with theater. It has nothing to do with acting. It has nothing to do with actors and actresses as people. Because I'll tell you right here and now, the more experiences you have, the more roles you do, the better you are. Okay? Now, you could sit there and go, well, you did this B film thing. Okay, all right, let's look at the concept of B films. All right, I'm probably one of the greatest B film actors in America. Okay, why? Because I worked in just about every single production of Roger Corman. Roger Corman is B films, by definition. So what does this mean? This means that because I am probably one of the greatest swords experts in the world, that I can work with people in Game of Thrones and I can teach them how to do a sword fight that actually looks like a sword fight. Instead of like a couple of ballets and a couple of poses. And how fast can I teach these people how to swing a sword? 3 hours. Give me 5 hours with some of the stars from Game of Thrones, and they'll suddenly go from looking like they worked with the choreography to something like they took 7 martial arts classes and actually learned how to swing a weapon. Okay? And then all of a sudden, I might not be the star of the show, but I'll be in the main credits because I'll be the choreographer. And that's from working in B films. Okay? You have to understand these kinds of concepts, because once you throw out all the jargon and realize who you are and who other people are, then you start realizing that all this labeling, pigeonholing crap is all imaginary anything. And it has nothing to do with your contracts, it has nothing to do with theater, it has nothing to do with the roles you get. Everything you do gains experience, gains interest. Okay? If you're a mime, and you're learning mime, and you're trying to do mime, okay, and you become an extra in something, you can throw in a trick in your character, and you can play with it and see if it'll work or fail from your own opinion, because the director's not watching you. He just cares that you're there. So in that sense, you can actually experience things which most people can't, because most people are told so much that they can't play games, they can't try out other things. Okay? Puppetry. When I did Fraggle Rock, most people want to know why I never really list Fraggle Rock, because it was, I'm not sure if cameras were rolling, it was a workshop. I was learning how to do things. And with Fraggle Rock, you're not hearing my voice. You're just seeing my puppetry. I'm moving a doozer with magnets. I'm flapping a Fraggle somewhere in the background. Because in most cases with Fraggle Rock, what they needed was puppeteers. They had the voices, they needed puppeteers. So what they needed was someone to just grab a Fraggle and work it. That way they could add a chorus later. Okay, and that kind of thing. So in a lot of cases, that's what I was doing. I was just being a puppeteer. That taught me a lot. Everything I've done has taught me a great deal in theater. And because of that, I'm a better actor. So always look at it from that perspective. If you take the perspective of every single thing is a support to the major character, to the major role, okay, then you become better as an extra, you could become better as a supporting character, you become better as a side character or a minor character. Because every single character in the production has to be a support to every other person. If you're in a scene and you're not sure what to do, look at what's in the scene, pick somebody out of your head and say, that's the star of the scene, even if they are not. And help them be the star of the shot. Do that and you improve your performances. And you don't just improve your performances in that film, you improve your performances everywhere throughout the rest of your life. Okay? It's not just walking up and being an extra. It's walking up and being a support. It's helping everybody around you. And the more people you're willing to work with, the more contracts you will get. If you sit there and say, I'll do B films, I'll do C films, guess what? you'll get more contracts.